Our next speaker is Jeff Hoffman. Jeff, I stuck him, I think, at the gate. He had a challenge getting in. I felt really terrible. Jeff is someone that I truly admire. He's been involved with some of the biggest corporations that you know of, from Priceline.com. You might have heard of it. It's like a little small company. He is someone that's been in the tech space for a number of years and someone that we all learned from. So let's give him a round of applause. I got to keep on time or Ninja's going to beat me up. Jeff, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So really quick, I want to get into, Dustin actually picked a topic for me today that we're going to talk about. So Dustin asked me to talk about setting goals, which is a favorite topic. And before I do that, I'll just give you a super quick background. I'm actually a software engineer by trade and grew up in the tech biz. I'm from the desert of Arizona. But what's interesting for me today is I got a software engineering degree, and my first job was right here. I worked at the Space Center. Our team was writing the software to launch the space shuttle. So I was here for a number of the launches. Dave and I were talking about this earlier. There's an astronaut named Jeff Hoffman who flew 5 missions. My mom still gets phone calls because people somehow think that was me. I never went into space. The other Jeff did. I spent my whole life building tech companies, the ones you guys know, Priceline.com. If you're from the other, we're in 190 countries. Booking.com is in the other 189. I did another one called ubid.com. All 3 of those were startups that started on a little table like that and grew into global corporations. Booking, I'm not really here to talk about this, but it's kind of, Mark was talking about dreams and anything's possible. We started these companies with a little group of people and a big dream and no funding. And Booking today, actually just got a ding that the stock hit an all-time high at $4,000 a share today. So the company's worth $135 billion, and we started it with 0 on a little table. Anything is possible. Today I run something called a couple of nonprofits. One is called the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We set out with a really simple mission to teach anyone, anywhere how to start and scale a business. And it's about teaching people how to help themselves in places where there are no jobs. We teach them how to start their own business. I'm proud to say, as chairman of it, we're on the ground in 200 countries now, which is why, even though I live in Florida, I'm rarely in this one. I just came back from a trip to, before I got to the Cape here, I was Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Qatar, and then Kazakhstan, and then I promised Dustin I'd be here today. So I just made it back in time yesterday to be here with you. Our other nonprofit is called the Unreasonable Group. It's named after a George Bernard Shaw quote, where we find and fund only the entrepreneurs who are making the world a better place to live. We're aligned with the United Nations and the 17 goals. Today there are, so we're only finding entrepreneurs around the world, we do this one in 187 countries, who are making the world a better place to live. Our portfolio is about 400 companies today, and we've collectively raised to fund social good about $11 billion. So we've been funding the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world. We're helping them do it. So that's what I do now. So let's talk about goal setting, and I'm going to tell you the punchline, then I'm going to go to a story for you. The punchline is this, which is that I learned to set all my goals backwards. And let me explain that, and I'll tell you the story of where that came from. When you look at a big goal, right, we all have a big goal and a big dream. Now, to be fair, today, everybody starting a company is talking about the unicorn. Let's go build, the next billion-dollar company. We never talked about that, right? So to be honest, we never said, let's build a billion-dollar company. We said, let's build an amazing company and the money will follow. We certainly didn't dream of a $100 billion company. We talked about creating something amazing. I have this thing on my wall at home that says, don't chase money, chase excellence, because money follows excellence. Everyone's out there chasing the money. We spent our whole life chasing the excellence, and we were the ones that always got paid. People talk about exit strategy, and I'm always sitting there thinking, what's your entrance strategy? What are you exiting? A PowerPoint? You got a PowerPoint, and now you're shopping for cars? Go build something amazing, and the money finds you. So that being said, when you have a big goal, it's like standing at the bottom of a giant mountain, right? So here's you, and that mountain is your big goal. Maybe it is a $1 billion company, or you're going to build a nonprofit that eventually is in 200 countries, whatever it is. When you're standing at the beginning of a big goal, it looks impossible. It's little you, and you're looking up at this mountain, and the mountain's way too huge to climb. It's too steep. You don't have the right shoes. The rocks are slippery. It's too hard. There's sharp edges. You're not an experienced climber. This is what we all do. We look at a big goal, and we can see all the reasons why it's really going to be hard and probably not achievable. So standing at the beginning of a big goal and looking up at the end point is scary, and it's what deters most people. So I'm going to tell you the story of how I kind of reversed that for me. And this is all the way back to high school. So I was in high school. My sister's in college. This is on a Saturday morning. My sister's friends come over to our house. And they're all looking at these photographs. And they're really excited about something they did. So I walk over there, and I said, what are you guys so excited about? Well, they had pictures because the night before, they went to the Elton John concert. I was in town. And I said, wow, you guys are really excited. And they said, yeah, we saw Elton John live last night. And I said, okay, did you hang out with them? And like, no, of course we didn't hang out with them. And I said, well, you're a little bit excited for just going to a concert. And they're like, dude, we were in the same building as Elton John. I said, did you at least shake his hand? And they're like, we were in the nosebleed seats, right? In the pictures my sister has, Elton John's like a little glowing dot in the bottom. I said, I'm confused on what you're so excited about. And they said, just to be in the building and hear Elton John live. Well, I have this incurable disease called sarcasm. I am sure that when I die, if they do an autopsy, my DNA is going to be like 90% of the strands are sarcasm. I get that. I can't cure it. So instead of saying, glad you enjoyed the concert, when my sister and her friends said we were in the same building with Elton John, and he got to hear him sing live, even though they were in the worst seats in the building, I turned and I said, you know what? Someday when Elton John and I are friends, I'll tell him you like his music. And I went to walk away, and they all started laughing. And I was like, why is that funny? And they said, dude, in a million alternate realities, you're still not friends with Elton John. And you're never going to be, right? And they're all laughing. And I'm walking away, and I'm like, maybe. And they're like, yeah, no, okay? And as I'm walking away, I start thinking about that, about attitude and about goal setting. My goal is not to be Elton John's friend, but 100%. Now, to add to it, I grew up in the Arizona desert in a little tiny town way out in the desert, single mom, 4 kids, 3 jobs, and we were poor. My sister, as a testament to my mom just recently, my sister the other day said, how come we didn't know we were poor? We were back home in Arizona looking at this little desert place we grew up. My sister's like, we were really poor. And we never knew that because my mother never focused on the wrong things, right? I think it's pretty cool that I didn't even know I was that poor and I didn't even care back then. But I'm in the middle of nowhere in the desert with a broke single mom. We're poor, right? I'll be lucky to get a job, let alone go to school somewhere. And yet I'm telling people one day Elton John and I will be friends. So as I'm walking away and my sister's friends are all laughing and I'm offended and saying, why is that funny? And they're like, because in a million lifetimes, you're never going to be friends with Elton John. So I start walking away and I start thinking about, is that true? And why do people let the world put a ceiling over you? I'm sure there was a day, Dave, when you said, one day I'm going to be an astronaut, and people said, sure, buddy, just go do your math homework, right? We've all been through that. You have a big dream, and everybody else just looks at it and like from, wherever Dave is in Canada, looking up in the sky saying, that'll be me someday, everybody else is shaking their head. I don't know why we let the world put a ceiling over us, but I know why they do it. They do it because the mountain's too high to climb. There's no way to get there. So I'm walking back, and I'm thinking to myself, could I ever be friends with Elton John? And I'm standing. Now, here's what we do. We start where we are, and we look up in the sky and say, how do I get to that space station? How do I get on that spacecraft, right? I'm standing there saying, Elton John, worldwide superstar, knighted, entertainer in England. And here's me, some poor kid in the desert in the United States, right? The mountain is huge. The distance between me and him is impossible. So when I'm standing there looking at it, I see what everybody else sees. This is a non-achievable goal, except that I don't believe that, all right? I have another thing besides the don't chase money, chase excellence. I have a wall at home. And by the way, I live about 45 minutes from here now. So it was particularly nice. The speech I gave 2 days ago was in Kazakhstan, practically in Siberia. So it's pretty nice when Dustin said, would you mind coming to speak at this event and joining us? And you guys were 45 minutes away. It's nice to be able to drive here. Not to mention, the last talk I gave was 20,000 people, so I didn't get to hang out with anybody. So I'm really thrilled about spending the day with you guys. Anyway, but nonetheless, when you look at that goal, and it's just not going to be achievable. But the other thing I wrote on my board a long time ago was I wrote this, and it's still there. I wrote, improbable, yes. Impossible, no. It's still on my wall because my dreams are improbable. It's pretty improbable that we're going to sit at a little folding table and create the world's largest travel company from scratch. But it's not impossible, right? It's pretty improbable that some poor kid in the Arizona desert is going to be friends with Elton John, but it's not impossible. Improbable, yes. Impossible, no. So I speak at a lot of schools around the world, and this is the first thing I tell kids. Quit letting people put impossible between you and your dreams. Accept improbable. It's not fun if it's easy, right? If you're a professional soccer player, you don't want to beat a bunch of middle school kids. You want to beat the best. Achieving something hard is what makes it worth doing. So here's what I did. I could see no way to achieve my dream. And so I decided to try something, which was planning my goals backwards. And so this is how I do everything now. So here's what I did. I took out a clean sheet of paper and I wrote down the end goal. I wrote down what I'm telling you to do is just put yourself at the top of the mountain and then back down from there instead of starting where you are and trying to figure out how to get up that mountain. So I wrote this down. I went in my room and I'm sitting there thinking I can't find a way that I'm ever going to be friends with Elton. So I wrote this down. I wrote, okay, Elton John and I are friends. That's what I wrote on the first line of the paper. And then I wrote what had to happen. Now I'm going to say the day before, but not literally. What had to happen the day before that? Elton John had to like me and want to be my friend. What had to happen the day before that? I had to spend enough time with Elton John that he could like me. What had to happen the day before that? Elton John had to ask me to spend time with him, right? And now I'm on to something. And the day before that, I had to be introduced to Elton John. And the day before that, I had to know somebody that knew Elton. And the day before that, I had to know somebody that knew Elton, right? And you can keep going doing this. So I started writing the day before that. I had to know somebody in the music industry that knew somebody. And the day before that, I had to have any reason that anyone in the music industry would possibly take my phone call. So now I'm getting somewhere. Now I'm like, wait, and now I know what I need. I need a reason that somebody will answer my call. That's actually an achievable goal. What if I solved a problem in the music industry that made people say, wait a minute, are you the guy that did that? Yeah, I'll take your call. Let's have lunch. And then I could start reversing it. So what I did was I drew a path from the end game. What had to happen before that, all the way till the path landed at my feet. And it might be one in a million paths. Give you an idea about the entrepreneurial attitude before I wrap this up. When I took a break from tech at one point, post Priceline and Booking.com and all the internet craziness, I decided to go out to California and make a film just because I wanted to learn the creative filmmaking process. And all my friends said, Jeff, 98% of all independent films will never see the light of day. And I nodded and they said, wait, you're still going to go make a movie, even though 98% of them fail. And I said, yes. And they said, what part of 98% failure rate are you not hearing? And you know what entrepreneurs think? I said, does anybody have the phone numbers of those other two people? Because two people know how to do this and I need to talk to them. No one's in this room to be part of the 98, right? We're all here to be part of the two. Entrepreneurship is about attitude. This is why I go speak to youth all the time, because we want them to start out in life believing they're in the 2, not the 98, so that they'll go out and achieve things in their life. So I'm just going to tell you how that ended. If you draw the path backwards and you see all those points, what happens now is it's very improbable that Elton and I are going to be friends, but it's not impossible. And that little bit of not impossible is like leaving a door in a dark room open a tiny little crack. That little ray of light is something that you see all the time. And so what would happen is I had this list written down. And as I was going through life, a moment would occur and I go, wait a minute, Joe's that guy that's on part 3, the guy that knows a guy that whatever, I need to talk to him. I was always aware of the steps I needed to make going back the other direction to ever get there. So I'll tell you how this story ends. One day, I during this break when I left the tech business to go into entertainment, I also decided to go produce music for a little while. Had a kind of crazy ending. I'm a software engineer, and I've since won a Grammy and 2 Emmy Awards, which is a little nuts for a software guy, for the music we produced and for some television we were producing. But when I was doing music, I was doing charity concerts. And I'm backstage doing a concert that we did entirely for charity. We gave 100% of the profits to children and families who couldn't afford to raise their children. But I'm backstage with the guy I'm doing the concert with, which happened to be Elton John. This is many years later. And Elton goes, Jeff, let's go, man. Go out there and introduce me. And I get ready to go out, and my phone rings. And I look at it, and I've long since forgotten this high school story. And it's my sister. And I pick up the phone. I was like, hey, I got to go. I'm doing something. My sister said, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing a concert. I have to go. And she said, you're at a concert? I said, it's my concert. I have to go outside and start on stage. There's 30,000 people there. I got to introduce the concert. And she said, who are you with? Because she could hear him saying, let's go. And I said, I'm with Elton John. And she said, who are you really with? I said, Elton and I are doing a charity event for children. I have to go. And she said, no, who are you really with? At that moment, I remembered. I was like, oh my God, this is the alternate lifetime that will never exist. And I said, hang on a minute. And I handed the phone to Elton. I said, do me a favor, say hello to my sister. And he asked her name, Julie. And he said, hi, Julie, this is Elton. And she said, this is the real quote. She said, give my brother the phone back, asshole. And he goes, whoa, your sister doesn't like me. And then my sister said, tell whoever that was, he doesn't even have a real British accent. That was my full circle moment, thank you, which I had almost forgotten, that I looked around. And all I could think is, if I had accepted impossible, I'm never standing in this moment. Improbable is okay. The only reason I ever got to that moment was because I plan all of my goals backwards. I write down where I want to be standing, and then I write every step of what would have to happen before that, before that, before that. And when I'm done, I have a plan that comes back to right where I'm standing, and I can see a way to get where I'm going. So Dustin, thank you for having me today. I just wanted to share with you guys, plan your goals backwards and never accept impossible. Thank you guys very much for giving me a few minutes today.
That was absolutely exceptional, Jeff. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give you this because you literally made me laugh like a number of times. We'll give you a little laugh.
And by the way, thank you for putting the William Shatner thing in
cool?
my bag. William Shatner does our commercials if you've seen a Priceline commercial.
Did everybody like those little gifts and giveaways you had in front of you? That was 2 weeks of outbidding everybody on eBay.
All right, well, that's cool.
I lived on it.
I appreciate the William Shatner one.
Thank you again. Excellent.